In this video, I'm looking at the ThieAudio Elixir. So we're going to find out if the Elixir is a magic potion or audio poison. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews, the ThieAudio Elixir. The price on this guy is about $206, and inside of this we find a fancy single dynamic driver. It's something like beryllium coated carbon nanotubes or some high-tech stuff like that. But so there's a look at the IEMs. Feast your eyes on those. They are pretty attractive looking things. So we've got a metal alloy shell with burl wood faceplates, treated wooden faceplates. And because they're wood, that means every set has its own unique pattern, which is always a cool thing. So it's kind of this grey, greeny, sage green color with a gold bezel around the outside. In terms of comfort, it's pretty good. The edge on the bezel is a little bit hard and it might stick into your ears like it does with mine but only after like an hour or two of listening. The included cable is nice. It's an OCC silver plated copper. It handles quite well. But you know what time it is. It's time to talk about how the Elixir sounds, and here we go. So let's throw up the graph right here. And there it is. Now that might look familiar to you if you are thinking, boy, that looks a bit like the VDSF or the Moondrop, typical Moondrop sound signature. Yeah, you'd be right. It's very close to one of those. We'll talk about that later on, but for now, the ThieAudio Elixir sounds a bit like this. Thoroughly run in, the ThieAudio Elixir offers a performance that you would expect from a higher tier IEM. It is a technical beast. Not clinical enough to be analytical, but I wouldn't call it romanticized either. With its balanced signature and emphasis on sub-bass, Elixir has a sound signature that we've become familiar with in recent times, and that is one that's near neutral with an attenuated mid-bass and lifted sub-bass. Where this potion finds its potency is in its soundstage and instrument separation. Its tonal balance might be somewhat lacking in character, but you are sure to be impressed whether you like its tonality or not. Starting with the bass, with a substantially boosted sub-bass, the Elixir is capable of some thundering lows. However, the mid-bass is heavily attenuated, resulting in a sound somewhat lacking flavor. But there are positives too to this kind of bass tuning. For instance, Elixir's bass is tight and fast, and it doesn't bleed into the mid-range. The Elixir creates spacious and ultra clean lows with good definition. However, it is not very textured and comes across as sounding rather flat. Elixir's mid-range though is, in a word, exquisite. The precision, orderliness, and the grace of the mid-range are something to behold for an IEM in this price range. Each element of the sound is delivered in swift and unswerving order. Vocals have a slightly thin note size, and there's still an element of restraint, a consequence of the constricted upper bass. The overall sound is undersaturated, and male vocals lack body, but they are very articulate. Nonetheless, there is a sense of something missing in the lower mids. Cellos and bass guitars lack presence and fullness. On the other hand, female vocals are vibrant and sonorous. But here we see a classic case of musicality sacrificed for the benefit of detail. Some listeners will love this, but I personally find it a little unfulfilling. The Elixir's treble is unremarkable but capable at the same time. It is a safe treble tuning with rounded notes and good extension. It's not the most resolving when it comes to micro details, but it is crisp and light. There's no sibilance nor stridency present in the Elixir's treble. This is about as forgiving as a detailed treble can get, even if it does sound a bit dry. Obviously, this is partly made possible by the stifled upper bass, but one can't help respecting what the Elixir's treble achieves in terms of soundstage and smoothness. Now, it's really in its technicalities where the Elixir shines above all else. The soundstage is as organized as a museum showroom. Every element is precisely positioned and defined without any clutter or chaos. Instrument separation is good, and the strong imaging makes it easy to locate the positions of various instruments. The stage position is neutral, neither intimate nor distant, but somewhere in between. If you were to take a masterclass on the technical performance of enthusiast level IEMs, I would point you towards the Elixir as a good marker. So we'll do a quick comparison now, and of course I have chosen the Moondrop Kato. This is the Kato here. It's about the same price, $200, $206. Now, in terms of looks and feel, the Kato definitely comes across as a bit more premium. Although the build and cable are nice here, this one just feels a bit more premium in the hand. The Moondrop Kato here has a single dynamic driver. Both IEMs share a remarkably similar frequency response, which is probably more intentional than accidental. The Kato has a more linear transition from the sub bass to the mid bass. This results in a more natural balance in the lows. Kato's lower mid-range sounds slightly warmer and rounder than the Elixir. To my ears, it sounds more natural than the leaner Elixir. Kato's upper mid-range is more likely to sound shouty at high volume, and that's because it doesn't have quite as much sub-bass to counterbalance it, and it does have just a little extra bit of treble zing up top and upper mid-range zing as well. I would say the Kato also has an edge in clarity, has slightly better clarity than the Elixir. The Kato's treble is slightly more forward and sweeter in tone. That, in conjunction with less sub-bass emphasis, gives the Kato an edge in detail retrieval. And although the Moondrop has a smaller soundstage, it has more depth for going forward in the stage and better note density. So to sum up, the ThieAudio Elixir, look, this is a very good IEM. It is a very technical sounding IEM. I wouldn't exactly call it clinical because it does have a fairly relaxed treble, but it does have a very light mid bass and upper bass. It's got that deep sub bass presence, but really it feels like they haven't got the balance quite right. I mean, how many songs do you know, unless you listen specifically to certain genres, maybe EDM or hip hop, where sub bass notes are, common throughout every song. Unless you're one of those people, then sub bass notes are something that you might only hear occasionally. And for me personally, I want a solid mid bass as well. Like, I do love a nice rumbling sub bass, but for me it needs to be paired with a comparable mid bass as well. Otherwise things just sound uneven. It sounds like something's missing. But I think ThieAudio have done a great job with this. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who would like it, especially people who are maybe looking for something a little bit more technical, a little bit more towards analytical and uncolored, sort of a bit flatter. It's not the most dynamic sounding IEM, it's not the most colorful, contrasty sound, but it is interesting nonetheless, and I think for the price of $206, it is a fair deal. But I'm going to wrap it up there. So guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, ParFam audiophile style. If you are new to the channel and you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And until next time, see you later.